Awesome. We have Roselle here, the lovely Roselle. Roselle is going to talk to you all about growing an organic social media fan base. She is a visibility and soul marketing coach. So, this is her specialty. And I am so excited to hear what you have to say, Roselle. So, I'm going to hand the mic over to you and let you take it away.
Okay. Hey everyone. So, yeah, I'm an online marketing coach. And just to give some about my story. In 2018, I was like at this low point in my life. I was about to flunk out of college. I was working a toxic job, and I always knew I wanted to create some sort of income that had like freedom and flexibility. I decided to start an online business and I knew nothing about marketing. I didn't have an audience. I didn't have money for ads. So I decided to learn about the world of social media. Um, and at that point, I actually discovered I was pretty good at it. And I grew a Pinterest account past like 14,000 followers in like 4 months. And then that gave me the confidence to start creating YouTube videos and begin creating a blog. And then I had videos that went viral. And then people started asking how to work with me, and then I began doing social media management, consulting, and since then I've had clients who have like gone viral. I have clients that began collaborating with influencers who've gotten their books published in like some crazy places. So not only is social media like this great tool that's been able to move the needle in my business and other people's business that I've been able to work with, but it's been this powerful like free tool, this powerful free vehicle to get my message across to other people, to have my story be heard, and to give a purpose into everything that I've ever been through. And so this is why it's something that I focus on, that I help my clients with. And today I'm going to talk with you about like a few tips, a few strategic things that you can focus on to start growing your social media. But what I really want to emphasize is that the being behind um, creating your content and getting your message out there is so much more important than any of the strategy. The reason why is because I once knew nothing about strategy and I still had like all this content that went viral, but it's because I was putting my message out there. I was being authentic, and I was telling a story that a lot of people needed to hear, but they weren't hearing. And that's why some of my stuff performed so well, and why some of my clients stuff have performed so well as well. So the truth is, like, there's a bunch of strategy you can follow, but the truth is, in order to grow your following, you actually have to make great content. There's no like way to guarantee going viral. There's no guarantee in how to grow your audience. But if you make great content, then you will grow your audience. And so that comes from the being. Are you being a person who says what you want to say? Are you being a person who's intentional about who you speak to, what stories you're telling, what emotions you create when you share your stuff? When we share things that are unfiltered, that are inspiring, that are educational, that make people laugh, that say something about our values that like we all secretly feel inside, um, that is when there's this emotional charge in the content and people begin sharing it. It starts like going crazy, and then your like audience begins to grow. So if you're showing up from a place to serve, to educate, to inspire, to connect, the growth becomes inevitable. And lastly, in terms of being, like, are you showing up as someone that's having fun? Who's focused on the impact of your message, who's focused on like the impact of sharing your story, of putting certain ideas or thoughts or beliefs out there, um, or are you or sorry. And so once I started to do that, like the strategy became like really, really easy. And when I started focusing on my being and the effect and the impact, my social media began to grow. So with that being said, I want to share with you some top tips. So keep in mind that like every social media platform they're going to have different rules. But for the sake of this conversation today, I'm going to focus on Instagram because that's like a very popular platform that most people always want to learn about. But some of these foundational principles can be applied to other platforms. Just make sure to do your research. So, number one is leverage the different platforms within the platform. What does that mean? So on Instagram, there's stories, there's reels, there's live video, there's IGTV, there's carousel posts. Um, every time a platform releases a new feature, Instagram wants you to use that feature. And so what that means is if you begin to use these different like platforms within the platform, Instagram will begin to show your content to more people. It will prioritize your live video over your simple like image post. So I want you to begin to like play around with like different ways you can use the platform you're already using. Number two is to have some sort of niche topic or niche audience or something that you're really passionate about and that you can consistently show up for. The reason why is because if there's no consistency in who you're speaking to, what you're sharing, it's going to be really hard for your audience to have a reason to like stick around and follow you. It's going to be really hard for the platform to begin to suggest your content to other people. So in my like experience, those that can be really specific and niche about what it is that their whole like profile is about, they will do really well. Number three, so you want to optimize your profiles for success. On different platforms, this can mean different things. On Instagram, this looks like, setting up your bio with the correct like keywords and topics that you talk about. It can look like using certain keywords in your description. So for example, if you're a wellness coach, you might want to put wellness tips, things that people are searching in your captions and in different places. It also looks like leveraging hashtags. Hashtag strategy is like an entire thing that we can go super deep into. But if you're not using hashtags, I want you to start using hashtags because they do matter. And with Instagram, you can actually use up to 30 hashtags. The types of hashtags you should be using should be relative to your topic, to your industry, to your audience, even your location. Um, and in even your location. What are you learning from, Roselle, in terms of hashtags? Um, so yeah, so hashtags are important. And also, hashtags also give the algorithm clues about what your content is about. So if they're consistently seeing like, oh, I see wellness coach, wellness tips, wellness this, all over your profile, they're going to show your content to people who are searching for wellness, like wellness topics. Okay. So another thing is to collaborate with other people. Share the mic, share your audience. That can look like interviewing other people on live, but it can also look like sharing other people's content in your stories and tagging them. I do this all the time without the intention to get the other person to shout me out back. But if you do this, they typically will. And that will give more eyes and visibility on your profile. And you'll be surprised about like the followers that start coming to you. Um, Number five. So you want to create like valuable content that is either shareable or savable. I talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but that can look like infographics are really popular because there's something that people want to save and look at later. Something that's inspiring, something that people want to share. And the most viral content creates, again, some sort of emotional charge because you're either saying something that really resonates with someone's beliefs, or you're saying something that everybody's thinking, but they don't like want to say themselves. And so they will see that as something that resonates with their own values, with their own beliefs, with their own identity, and they'll share it. Like I know some of you are out there resharing different quotes and for whatever reason, different reels, different TikToks. And there's a reason why you're sharing it, because you relate to it. You relate to it on a deeper level and you feel like, oh my gosh, like they get me. That's the kind of content that is valuable, that is viral, that is shareable. Number 6. So number 6 is to be consistent. And being consistent doesn't mean that you have to post 4 times a day every single day. Being consistent doesn't mean you have to post like every single day of the week. Being consistent can look different for everybody. But the importance of consistency is not only for the algorithm to like, know that you're a profile that is, consistently showing up, that is like, creating some of an experience for their users, but it also shows your audience, your community, that you show up for them and they will begin to trust you. It's a very like subconscious thing, but if they know that you're going to keep showing up, that you're going to keep talking about the same topic, that you're going to keep sharing the stories that they want to hear, they're going to build this like deeper connection with you, and they'll start sharing your content. They'll start referring people to follow you. They'll start like, your community will grow your community. Your audience will grow your audience. So I want you to really like, even if you only like, I don't care if you have 30 followers, 100 followers, 500 followers, like none of those people have to follow you, but they all follow you for a reason, and each one of them matters. And when you show up for those people, they will show up for you as well. And I really want you to like remember that. So number 8 is to get inspired by others on social media. This is like a whole nother strategy in itself. But if there are like other competitors in your industry, other profiles that have such a like large following, you can look at what they're doing that is doing really well. Like what's getting the most likes, what's getting the most saves. And like there's a reason why. And it can be as simple as like what they're talking about. And it could also be as simple as how it looks. For example, Boss Babe is a very, very huge Instagram account for women entrepreneurs. And what they do is they just take a bunch of quotes that are already being shared and like doing super well in other platforms, and they literally reshare the same content that they know their audience also needs to hear. The only thing when you do this though is to be very careful about comparing yourself, to be very careful about, you know, wanting to be exactly like somebody else, to be careful also about like copying and not giving credit. You always want to give credit. But if you're not sure where to start in terms of creating like content that is viral, that is going to perform well and grow your audience, you can always look to others for inspiration. Another great example of that is like if you want to start using Instagram Reels, like follow trends. You'll notice like the same types of videos keep popping up. There's a reason why. So you can use that as inspiration. So those are like my best tips and like strategies and just like things that you should follow. Okay, like best practices. There you go. But what I really want you to walk away with today is I really want all of you to feel like more confident in sharing your message, whatever that message may be, and to trust that the growth will be inevitable. If you follow some of like, even if you take one thing from this talk today and you implement that, but at the front of what you do, at the core of what you do actually, is just to have fun and to understand that like your message, you showing up makes a difference, the growth is going to follow. So yeah.
Amazing. Roselle, I feel like, yeah, you could do like a whole separate class on each one of those talks because they're so juicy, like hashtags alone and like collaboration and what that can look like. So informative. So informative. Everybody watching, Q&A time. What questions do you have for Roselle? Put them in the chat. If you're watching on Facebook, put them in the comments. If you are watching on Zoom, you can also raise your hand and I can unmute you and you can ask Roselle verbally if you have a question there. While we're waiting for those questions to pop up, Roselle, I do have a question for you myself. And it kind of boils back to your consistency point, like consistency. How do you know, like, what is the consistency pace for you when it comes to being consistent on social media?
That's a great question. So that's such a good question. I always say like start small and then build from there. Because even if you like decide to grow straight out the gate, like I'm going to post every single day, you're not going to know if that fits with your lifestyle, if you can even commit with that. And then you don't even know if it's actually doing anything for you. So I always say like 3 to 4 times a week. That's a good like place to start. And then like build from there. Yeah.
Awesome. Here's a question from Simone. Are there any apps that can help organize your posts and auto post them?
Yeah, there's so many. So my favorite one for posting is Later for Instagram. They also connect to Facebook, um, Twitter, I think, and maybe LinkedIn. So Later's my favorite. Yeah.
Great. Let technology help. Yeah. We also have a question here from Laura. Newbie here, about what percentage of your coaching clients come from social media versus other platforms such as client coach referrals, etc.? Great question.
So actually all my clients come from social media. Okay, maybe like 1% comes from word of mouth. Yeah.
I was gonna say, I think you got a referral earlier this week, if I'm like not
Yeah.
mistaken.
And like on rare occasions, but I only do social media. Yeah.
Like 95% probably.
Yeah.
What other questions do you have, everybody? Lay them on Roselle. Oh, I've got to see a hand raised. Kendall, what do you got for us?
Roselle, do you recommend 30 hashtags?
Yes. So
Okay.
that's a maximum that you can use. So definitely always use 30 hashtags, but you need to be intentional about what hashtags those are, the size of them. The reason why is because like if you'll use like smaller hashtags, what I mean by that is like only a few people are following them or only a few people are like in that posts are in that hashtag. But if you post something that does really well, those other hashtags could bump your content to like wider audience. So each hashtag is a new opportunity to like be viewed by other people. That's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't realize this until like probably like shamefully recently, but I didn't realize you could follow hashtags on Instagram, and that really opened my eyes too about which hashtags actually like show up in my feed and which ones are being followed. So keep that in mind too. If you're curious, you can follow hashtags too and see what kind of traction they give you on your feed as well. What else you got, everybody? Let me check Facebook here, see if there's any questions. And let's see, I've got more questions for you. What do you do, Roselle? Like almost personally, I'm asking you like as an individual, what do you do on those days where you don't feel like showing up online and like sharing and posting, but you know you should, air quotes, right? Like what do you do on those days you just don't feel like it?
Yeah, so if I like should because there's some sort of reason why, you just have to ground into your purpose and what this means beyond you and what like sharing certain things means for other people. Um on a more like doing side of things, like there's ways to make that easy. Like I made writing a practice for myself, so I have like a bunch of notes and content just saved in my phone, and I can just take something when I don't have anything coming to me like today and just like repost it. um or you could post something you've already posted before, like there's nothing wrong with that. Or I just share something that I like from other people. So but at the end of the day, it just comes into being grounded in what does this mean for others beyond just me. What does this mean? What becomes possible when I talk about this?
Use your app, Kelly. Thanks so much. Yeah, get that app in action, right? Set yourself up so you don't have to think about it. Yeah, totally. And I think that's a really helpful place to get inspiration from. If you have a content bank, is the wording I always think about, a pool of things I can pull from when I don't feel like it, that can really be helpful to kind of either spark something that you do want to share, or be a quick little response when you don't feel like putting in a lot of effort on your share. Yeah. Oh, here's a good question from Kendall. When you credit others' content, do you hashtag or at their name or business?
I just at their name, their profile, so that they get tagged in it, and then they'll get a notification, and they'll know that I shared it, and the people following me who are seeing it can go see where it actually came from too.
Yeah. What apps do you like to make your content more visually appealing? What apps do
Oh
you
my
like
gosh,
to make your content more visually appealing?
I have a whole reel on this on my Instagram. But so my favorite apps, for filters and whatnot, Adobe Lightroom for like editing videos in shot, for doodling and making collages. There's an app called Bizarre Art, and there's another one called A Design Kit. So those are my favorite.
Great. Another common one too that a lot of coaches use is Canva.
Oh yeah, I forgot.
It's a good solid one that you can create a lot of different types of content imagery on, and it's free. Yeah. Awesome. Let me check Facebook, see if we got any questions in there. No questions in there. Any final questions from the audience? Please put them up now. If you want to get a hold of Roselle and connect with her, you can see her contact information in the Limitless workbook. She's on page 14 specifically, so you can connect with her and go see her Insta and watch that reel about all her tips and tricks. Watch her reels. And if any of you are curious, how do I do what Roselle does? How do I help people with social media? How do I become a coach and do this type of work? Coach training. That's my suggestion for all of you. Roselle's a graduate of IGC coach training, just like everybody else here that you're listening to today. So we are in enrollment time for our next round of coach training. It starts the 31st. There is a discounted rate for all of you attendees here. So I'm going to pop in the Zoom chat. There's a link. You can book a call, talk to Katie or Liv, and see if coach training is the next best step for you, because we dive into some of this stuff in coach training too. We like to make sure you're feeling good about not only being a coach, but how to actually put yourself out there to get hired as being a coach. So we cover all that type of stuff in coach training. So book a call. We're at another break. Thank you, Roselle, for sharing your insight, all your know-how on the social media fan base, growing that audience organically. And cool, let's take a 5-minute break. When we come back, we're going to be with Sam Sinet. Sam is a licensed social worker and is going to talk about how to tell if you need a career pivot, just a little shift in your career, or if you need a career overhaul. How to tell which path might be best for you at any given moment in time. So let's come back here. I'll see you in 5 minutes with Sam. And thanks again, Roselle.